You ever have one of those neighbors who acts like they were born with a badge and a clipboard? That was Karen. In her mind, she wasn't just a homeowner, she was the judge, jury, and code enforcement for the entire neighborhood. The moment I moved into my house, I could feel her eyes on me. Not in a welcoming way, either. More like a hawk circling above, waiting for me to slip up. Every time I parked slightly off-center, every time my lawn was a little too long or a package sat on my porch for more than 10 minutes, there she was, arms crossed, lips pursed, like she was writing mental violations for her imaginary HOA citation book. I'd been living in the house for only about 3 months when the sticker incident happened, and let me tell you, I never thought a few pieces of adhesive could spark that much chaos. These stickers weren't decorative or promotional or something I put up for fun. They were big, loud, and bright orange with bold black text. Notices from the county clerk's office. The previous owner had been involved in a fraud case, something about unpaid taxes and property disputes, and the house was still under a quiet legal review. These stickers were legally required to remain posted on the windows and doors until the county gave the green light. My lawyer told me to leave them exactly as they were or move them. Don't cover them, don't even clean around them. But of course, no one told Karen that. Not that she would have cared. She had made up her mind that they were ugly, and therefore had to go. I noticed her giving them nasty side eyes when she walked past my property, sometimes even pausing to squint at them through her ridiculous oversized sunglasses. One time, she actually made a comment while I was getting my mail. "Those stickers really lower the tone of the block," she said, arms folded like she expected me to agree. I gave a polite smile and said, "Yeah, they're required by the court. Unfortunately, can't touch them." She just gave a snort and walked off, muttering something under her breath. I should have known then that Karen wasn't going to let it go. That morning, it was strangely quiet. No lawnmowers, no barking dogs, not even the usual chatter from the retired couple across the street. I stepped outside with my coffee, still half asleep, and there she was, Karen, standing on my porch like she owned the place. She had a plastic scraper in one hand and a pair of gardening gloves on like she was performing a crime scene cleanup. And there, fluttering gently in the breeze, were the peeled remains of one of the stickers. She had already removed the one on the front window and was starting on the second when I froze. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice sharper than usual. She turned around, all smiles. "Oh, good morning. I'm doing you a favor," she said cheerfully, like she expected. "A thank you. These things are such an eyesore. I figured you wouldn't mind if I helped clean them up." I blinked. "Karen, ... Those aren't just stickers. They're legal notices," court ordered. She paused mid-scrape. "Oh please. They're just some tacky decals. No one cares about that bureaucratic nonsense. You'll thank me later." "No, you don't understand. That's evidence. It's tampering with official documentation. I'm legally required to keep them there." Her expression shifted like someone pulled the rug out from under her. She glanced down at the stickers now balled up in her tote bag, and then back at me, suddenly realizing that maybe, just maybe, she had overstepped. I didn't wait for her to respond. I pulled out my phone, opened the porch cam app, and hit record. The footage was crystal clear. It caught her walking up, putting on the gloves, and ripping the stickers right off like she was unwrapping a birthday present. I started dialing the county clerk's office while she stood there, frozen, like a deer in the headlights. "Whiter, you serious?" She finally blurted out, "You're not actually going to report me, are you?" I looked her dead in the yes, I am." Karen stammered something about trying to help and not knowing, but at that point, it didn't matter. She had crossed a legal boundary. I wasn't about to let my property get dragged into some new mess just because my nosy neighbor thought she knew best. By that afternoon, things were already spiraling. The county office sent someone out to inspect the damage and issue a warning. Then came the phone call. Karen would be receiving a formal notice for tampering with legal property. It wasn't exactly jail time, but it was a criminal citation that could show up in court if the judge wanted to push it. And guess whose name and porch camera footage were now officially part of the case file? Karen was livid, of course. Not just because she got caught, but because her little plan to improve the neighborhood had backfired in the most public way possible. She tried to do damage control, telling neighbors I was overreacting, that it was just a sticker. But no one was buying it. People had seen the sheriff car outside her house that evening. They'd seen the new, even larger notice posted on my window with bold red letters that read, "Do not remove, legally enforced," and right underneath that, I posted my own little note, just for Karen, "Tamper again and smile for the camera." The HOA board caught wind of it, too. Karen used to hold sway at every meeting, bossing people around like she was the president even though she wasn't. But after this, not a chance. The board quietly distanced themselves from her, worried they'd get pulled into the legal mess if they defended her actions. She didn't get her usual smug nods from neighbors anymore, just awkward silence and a lot of closed blinds whenever she walked by. And I just sat back and enjoyed the show, because there's a special kind of satisfaction in watching a HOA queen fall flat on her face all because she couldn't leave a sticker alone. Karen wasn't used to consequences. For years she had roamed the neighborhood like a self-appointed enforcer, waving the HOA handbook like it was scripture, interpreting every rule in her own favor, and twisting every situation into some manufactured offense, whether it was the wrong shade of mulch or someone's trash bins being visible for longer than 5 minutes. She'd pounce on it and report it like she was saving the world. People grumbled behind her back, rolled their eyes, but most just avoided her. No one ever stood up to her outright. She operated with the kind of unchecked authority that only exists when everyone else is too polite or too exhausted to fight back. But this time was different. After she tore down those court-ordered notices and I handed over the footage, the consequences came faster than she could spin a cover story. The county didn't take it lightly. The stickers were part of a legal process, not just for documentation, but also for transparency during the investigation into the previous homeowners' financial fraud. By removing them, Karen had interfered with an official process. Whether she meant to or not didn't matter. Tampering with legal postings, especially when they're tied to a public record, falls under a misdemeanor in our jurisdiction. That's not something the county overlooks. She got a formal citation within 48 hours. I didn't see it delivered, but I heard about it from 2 separate neighbors who watched a uniformed officer knock on her door. Apparently, she tried to play dumb, saying it must have been a misunderstanding. But when they told her there was video evidence, her entire attitude shifted from sweet to sour. She stopped trying to explain herself and just slammed the door in the officer's face. But the damage was already done. Then the next day, I had to post the new legal stickers. They were larger, laminated, and had a bold red warning across the top. Do not remove under penalty of law. They practically glowed in the sunlight. I placed one on the same window where the original had been torn down and another near the front door. But I didn't stop there. I printed out a small sign of my own, just a polite little reminder underneath the legal notice that read, "Smile, you're on camera." And that was when the shift started. Karen, who once marched around with her phone ready to snap photos of other people's minor infractions, stopped her morning patrols. She no longer strutted past my house like she was inspecting a crime scene. In fact, for the first time in weeks, I didn't see her outside at all. She became a ghost. The neighborhood buzzed with quiet chatter. People who normally stayed out of HOA drama were suddenly very curious. Some even knocked on my door to ask what really happened, and when I explained, their expressions turned from surprise to satisfaction. She finally messed with the wrong person, one neighbor said with a smirk. I always knew she'd go too far, said another. The irony is, Karen always thought she was the one protecting the integrity of the neighborhood, but in reality, she'd just made herself a nuisance. And now her meddling had brought actual legal attention to our sleepy cold diesack. The HOA board didn't like that one bit. They were already walking on eggshells after a recent lawsuit involving overreach in another part of the county. Having one of their more vocal members cited by the county sheriff's department wasn't just embarrassing, it was risky. At the next HOA meeting, things took a dramatic turn. Karen, as usual, tried to reclaim her spotlight. She stood up during open comments and attempted to launch into a speech about how some people were bringing down the neighborhood's image with ugly signage and inappropriate displays. It was a clear jab at me and the court notices, but this time, the new board president, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Linda who had grown tired of Karen's antics, cut her off. Karen, she said firmly, we're not discussing legally mandated postings. That matter has already involved law enforcement. If you interfere again, you'll be facing HOA sanctions on top of county action. Karen looked stunned. That had never happened before. For once, someone on the board wasn't pandering to her complaints. And when she tried to argue, Linda didn't even raise her voice. She simply reached down, picked up a printed copy of the HOA's own legal liabilities policy, and read from it directly. Any member who is found to have interfered with lawful procedures or municipal orders may be subject to removal from committee duties and further review. There was no vote, no further discussion. The room was dead silent. Karen sat down, visibly shaking, lips pressed into a thin line. From that moment on, it was like a switch flipped in the entire community. People who had previously been too polite, to speak up started enforcing their own boundaries. Someone told Karen to stop leaving HOA newsletters on their porch. Another neighbor politely asked her not to comment on their gardening choices. The shield of power she had worn for years was cracking, and everyone could see the dents. What made it even sweeter was knowing I hadn't done anything dramatic. I hadn't yelled at her. I hadn't retaliated. I had simply done the one thing Karen never expected. I documented the truth and followed the law. That alone was enough to topple her kingdom of control. Eventually, she tried to paint herself as the victim. She told a few people she had been tricked into removing the stickers, that she didn't know they were legal documents, but the video footage didn't lie. And when someone pointed out she had actively scraped them, often stuffed them in her bag while smiling at the camera, her story fell apart. She stopped attending HOA meetings altogether. Her signature flyers, those passive-aggressive notes about lawn standards and parking guidelines, disappeared. Even her front yard, once the pristine jewel of the block, started to show signs of neglect. A few weeds popped up. The flower bed looked overgrown. Her usual vigilance had faded into quiet embarrassment. Meanwhile, life on the block got a little lighter. Neighbors talked more, laughed more. One guy even put up a comically large "This is not a violation" sign in front of his recycling bins, and everyone got the joke, and I just kept doing what I'd always done, minding my business, following the rules, and keeping my porch cam running just in case. In the end, Karen learned the hard way that justice doesn't always come in the form of punishment. Sometimes it's just losing the influence you thought you had. Sometimes justice is a neighborhood no longer afraid of you. And sometimes it's a laminated sticker that tells you, in bold letters, you can't peel away the truth.